got something a bit different in this video. I did an interview this afternoon with someone in Iran. They're putting together a video, and they're basically campaigners on the same sort of values that the Scottish Family Party campaigns on. So we asked them lots of questions, and I answered at some length. And that's going to be put as part of a documentary, a film that they're putting together. Maybe I'll share that when that's finished. But when I finished my interview, I thought, I'll just ask him a few questions. And the answers were absolutely fascinating. Some really incredible insights, I think, here. Now, Hassan, I didn't even get around to actually asking if he was a Muslim or not, so I don't know. But you just need to listen to this. What I'd like to hear is your take on the situation in Iran. What are the trends there?
Well, the trends here are like, well, most of the world. I mean, it's kind of like the West, but with a 50-year lag. I would describe it in that way. Again, like most developing countries, there are elements trying to push again. The sexual liberalist agenda, sexual liberalist way of thinking, in a ways less conservative than, say, some countries like South Asia. But again, the trend is going towards more liberalism. There are, again, multiple factions trying to influence this issue. There are, of course, the left-leaning liberal academia. They play a huge part. And of course, I have to say that there are media elements, mostly supported or even supported based or pushed from outside of Iran, which want to push for more sexual liberalism. We have, of course, the United Nations. A huge deal in Iran in the past few years was the UN Sustained Development 2030 program, and the sexual education element within that program, which was hugely controversial. Well, yes, so there are international organizations which push for various things. A lot of time, the first thing they have been pushing for, of course, is more birth control, lowering the birth rates, which unfortunately has brought Iran to one of the lowest birth rates in Southwest Asia, which is right now it's below replacement level. So, which cannot be justified. I mean, if we want to, the narrative is full of holes. The narrative of the lower population growth is full of holes, but the least is that you should keep it at a replacement level birth rate, which is now it's beneath that. You have as you said, BBC. The BBC Persian service is working really hard on promoting sexual liberalism. You have a plethora of Western government-funded channels, TV channels, or social media networks, like again the VOA Persian service. Again, all of them are pushing for more sexual liberalism. But on a general scope, again, it's kind of like the West 50 years ago. So these groups are now pushing for normalizing, relations out of marriage, sex out of marriage, relations between the sexes outside of marriage. We're really pushing hard to normalize this. Well, hopefully, Iran is still a long way from things like this being normalized. Most sections of the population are still relatively conservative, but the push is still there, the trend is still there, and a lot of people, both from the government and normal people, normal NGOs and think tanks, many organizations are worried about this trend and are trying to do something about it, because because well, research, as we've seen, this experiment being played in the West, and well, the results are in. 50 years have passed, and we're seeing the results of what comes after sexual liberalism. I mean, the poster child of the sexual revolution was San Francisco, and right now San Francisco is one of the worst. Is held by all people to be in a pretty bad shape. So yeah, we want to at least, the least thing we want to do is teach people, inform people about the results of this experiment, which was the sexual liberation, and to at least know that what were the outcomes. Because the narrative that is being pushed by the liberal-leaning elements is that, okay, so first of all, sexual liberalism is a good thing. It leads to positive effects on society. It leads to a happier life, a more fulfilled life. All these restrictions, all these conservative values, they're taking away happiness. They are making life worse. And if you make all this free, if we take away the stigmas, if we take away the rules, if we take away the restrictions, all people will find a happy life. And well, that's and on the other side, they say, okay, even if it has negative consequences, it's just personal. So yeah, we want to first tell them that no, the consequences are not positive. They are all research, all an observation of all that has happened show us that it was thoroughly negative, and no, it wasn't. It's not going to be restricted. The effects, the consequences are not going to be restricted to just the individual. It's going to be on the society as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, the BBC is a nightmare in Britain. They're an absolute nightmare. The enemy of any positive values on virtually anything. So there's a bit of a pushback against them at the moment. A lot of people are up in arms about it and refusing to pay their television license, etc. But their influence, I think when it comes to the UN, how does the UN end up in that state? It doesn't reflect the nations of the world, does it?
No, it does not.
Is it just that the richer nations have more influence, or they've just been taken over by activists, or what?
Well, it's both in a way. I mean, well, the nations like Western Europe and North America, well, obviously they pay a bigger part in the budget and the support for the UN. So that plays a role. On the other hand, well, they're based in Western Europe, so again, that facilitates leftists playing a role in it. But one thing that I think is very important, and is something that conservatives around the world should understand and come together over, is that the left, the liberal side, is much more organized. Is much more both in articulating their points, in letting people know about their points, in having a structured approach to making these changes. They're organized in this sense, and of course they're organized around the globe in that they want to achieve this goal, because well, a lot of them are globalists. They're not really bound by nation and ethnicity. So they're more united, they're more organized to bring this forward. And it is my belief that the conservative forces around the world, the pro-family forces, should also, well, take note, both organize in a way, document and articulate, and in a way make it standard, the information, their belief, the ideology, not ideology, but their worldview, their narrative. It must be structured and united, and again, and the various forces themselves should also come together and work together, which is a huge problem facing the pro-family forces right now, because on one hand, well, many conservative forces are quite opposed to each other. I mean, a huge problem is that the right wing in Europe and North America, they are, in the recent years, they have become relatively, to various degrees, anti-Muslim and anti-Islamic, which is understandable because, well, from a viewpoint of immigration, which they're not supportive of immigration for various reasons. I mean, from national identity to economics to whatever, and that has put them at odds, and they are like spending a lot of energy opposing Muslims, which again is just in a way could be justified because again many Muslims in many immigrant communities are also supporting leftist political organizations. But that is wasting a huge potential of cooperation. I mean, if you don't want to cooperate with Muslim communities in your countries, you have to at least realize that conservative Muslim communities in Muslim countries, well, at least when it comes to like the UN, to most policies, the things that you have in common are much more than the things that are the differences. So I think that there should be and again, it also includes like South Asian religious groups, East Asian religious groups, all over the world. These groups together, they could play a huge role. They could, because when you look at the big picture, the absolute majority of the population of the Earth is on at least on the political spectrum of the West, they're on the conservative side. So it makes no sense that globally the liberal side has more power. So I think that forces from the East and the West should find ways to join forces because the threat is again too much. It's in a way, it's either we say either we unite or we die type of situation, because they are united. They're not going to stop anytime soon. I mean, a lot of people in the West think that the liberals are just anti-Christian and they're not anti-Muslim because they support Muslim immigration. Well, they're anti-Christian because the dominant traditional cultural system in the West is Christian, but in Muslim countries they're anti-Muslim. In Hindu countries they're anti-Hindu. So both from a government's perspective, governments which they might a lot of governments, especially conservative governments, are at odds with each other on a variety of issues. But at least in cultural issues, I think they should join forces. And this, and from a level of the normal people, from popular organizations, they should also form a united front. They should also organize their efforts, try to work with each other, try to help each other grow, coordinate with each other. And I think if they do that, they do have the potential to turn the tide around.
But the big picture in Britain with Muslims, I think, generally, is they seem to have fallen for the offer from the left, which is basically, we'll give you lots of money. We'll give you money. We'll give you a big grant for your new Islamic center. We'll come to dinner at the mosque. We'll tell you we think you're really wonderful people and you're making a fantastic contribution. We'll allow lots more immigration as well. So anyone else in your family is very welcome. And that's the pitch that seems to have won over the majority of Muslims in Scotland at the moment. So their engagement in politics is nothing to do with their conservative values at all. It's all these other issues. Whereas what we're trying to do is saying, we don't want you on board because you're a Muslim. We want you on board because of your values. We think your values are what the country needs. So we want you to bring those. If you were involved in one of the other parties, they would want you saying you're a Muslim, but they actually don't want your values. They want you to be quiet about your values. Whereas we're saying, no, we want you to speak about your values. That's why we want you to be involved, because of the values, the policies, whatever that you support. And we're beginning to make progress. It's not fast progress, but I think we're beginning to get somewhere with that. We'll see how it develops.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, in the rare cases that it has, I mean, this cooperation has happened, it has given some quite good results. I mean, in Birmingham, I think it was a couple of years ago where where Muslim parents and Christian parents were trying to solve a sexual education program, and they were successful. But again, I mean, if I'm trying to be honest, I don't want to be harsh, but well, for immigrants, well, if a person immigrates, well, their priority is probably going to be economic. So and that's going to translate into their voting pattern. So it will be, I think you'll be more successful if you try to reach out in like conservative groups. I mean, in like Pakistan or India rather than. But you should also, I think, reach out, because I mean, I talked to another person in Britain, and he said that the issue with Muslims today is similar to the issue with Catholics. I don't know, in Britain or the United States 50 years ago, in that Catholics at the time, well, most of them were immigrants, and a lot of them were voting left.
Yeah.
But after a time, the same left turned on their values, and those Catholics became right.